So I'm Donna Campano Hafner. I just got married this summer, so that's why I've got the two names up there. Most of you people that were in mix before know me as Donna Campano. So just a little about myself. I have taught for 29 years. I have a BS in elementary ed. I went to Southwestern University in Georgetown, and I minored in math. So math was always my love. So Dr. Browning is like my very best friend. I love her. And then I went back and got my master's from Capella University in advanced classroom instruction. That was just basic overall. You know, I kind of wanted a master's, and so I thought, well, I'll just do this. I'll do it online because I had kids. In my 29 years, I've taught first grade, only did that 1 year. That just about killed me, so I said, I'm an upper grade teacher. And then I taught third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. The 5-6 was all in one school. It was a 1-6 school in Lubbock, and we did a 5-6 split. So I taught 2 sessions of fifth grade math, or 3 sessions of fifth grade math, and 2 sessions of sixth grade math. And then most recently, this last year, I got the pleasure, I never thought I'd say that, because literally when I started Mix, I would never have said that I got the pleasure of teaching science all day last year. But man, did I love it. So that's just a little bit about me. Some of the training that I've had, as you can see, it's a ton. I do consider myself a lifelong learner. I love this kind of stuff. I absolutely go to multiple trainings every year. I've probably been to more Marilyn Burns trainings than I care to shake a stick at, and the same training multiple years. Because what I've learned is, I go to it once and I kind of learn it. When I go to it a second time, the exact same training, my learning goes deeper. So sitting here with you guys these past 2 days, watching those lessons that I'd already done last year and the year before, I'm still learning. And I'm going, oh, wait, I remember that. So multiple times of seeing it, I never thought I would say that, but it really has made me into a better teacher. I also have presented at math sessions at camp for 2 separate years. I got the pleasure of being able to present there, and that was a lot of fun. Go to CAST, go to camp. They are phenomenal trainings. I've had 18 hours of higher level math instruction in college. Did not prepare me at all to teach children. At all. I'm going to be honest with you. I thought I was great at math. I thought, man, I know how to do math. I'm great at it. Walked in the classroom and I became a baby again. So, but I only had 6 hours of science. So science was definitely my weakness until I joined Mix. I was not very good in science, and I got the basic science stuff in college because I was an elementary person. I didn't need that, is what I felt. And I thought that about the math too. I got these upper level math courses and I was like, well, why do I need that? I'm just teaching them how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. I don't need to know how to do that. What was I wrong? I was wrong. In my 29 years, holy mackerel, I've taught at 6 different schools. 3 of those have been Title I schools, which I absolutely adored. They came with their headaches, their challenges. Holy mackerel, they were hard. Many, many, many sleepless nights, as you guys well know. And then I also had 3 non-title schools that were not your upper income schools, but they were kind of middle of the road. Really enjoyed those. I did serve as a math instructional coach for 8 of my 29 years, where I was focused solely on math, working with teachers and some students. So that was kind of a fun job that I had. And I've worked for 8 different principals. Last night as I was putting this together, I was counting on my fingers how many principals, and I was like, wow. I had a lot of different observers in my 29 years. But when I look back at my 8 different principals, I realized that 5 of those 8 were really what I would consider a very supportive principal. Somebody that really supported me and helped me grow as a learner, helped me grow as a teacher, and helped me really become the teacher I am today. That I have to tell you, when Dr. West introduced me as a master teacher, I was like, wow, really? Me? Wow. You know, it was kind of weird because that, for Dr. West to say that, it's huge. Those are huge accolades for me, and I take those with very much, make me great. So what is a supportive principal? And hopefully you guys have the opportunity to work for one of these, or you currently are, or you'll get that opportunity at some point in your career. They have to be knowledgeable of best practices as well as content. There were a lot of principals I worked for that they were good. They did their job, they sat in their office. But those principals that really knew what my classroom needed to look like and really pushed me to put those best practices into place, those were those supportive principles that helped me grow as a teacher and help my students succeed. When I became a better teacher, my students became better learners. He had to be trusting. That principal, he or she has to be trusting. They have to trust that I'm the instructional leader in that classroom, and I am going to do what's best as long as he or she knows what I'm doing, and they trust that I'm doing the right thing, and they know that I'm following those best practices. Let me do that. They have to give a willingness to provide several things. Time for planning and collaboration. I could not have done the things I did this year, last year, and the year before if my principal had not given us time, had not given us extended planning with my grade level, with our instructional coaches at my campus that I just came from. He provided us full days and half-day trainings to just go and work on content. I got this past year the opportunity to spend a whole day working with our math, our science people from district office. My principal paid for a sub to be in my room. That's a supportive principal. He gave me the time to spend studying my TEKS, studying my lessons so I could be a better teacher for the kids. High quality professional development. Not just those fly-by-night courses that you guys have all taken, but the courses like MIPS that give you the knowledge that you need. Frustrating as they may be, believe me, I've sat in your seat, I've been there. And then materials for teaching and learning. Being able to buy you those manipulatives that you need in your classroom. Dr. West can get you a few, but talk to your principals. Good supportive principals are going to get those for you because they know how important they are. And then the learning materials as well, the NGSS and the Next Gen. Yeah, they're online, but I like to be able to highlight. I'm a tabber and a highlighter. I want to be able to flip those pages. So if you need that book copy, talk to your principal. High expectations of teachers and students. I always loved my principals when they came into my classroom more than just in a 45-minute observation, more than just in a 15-minute walkthrough. I wanted my principal in watching me. People thought I was nuts. What do you mean that you want? I said, no, bring them in. Central office people would come and visit, and they'd come in my room, and I'd go, come on in, watch me, because you need to tell me what I need to fix. You know, and I'd always say that. What can I fix? Dr. West and Dr. Browning would come in and they'd finish and I'd walk, so what do I need to fix? What do I need to do? And I wanted that feedback. I needed that feedback to make me a better teacher so that my students could, you know, I could get them to be better learners. Follow through. If my principal said they were going to do something, I expected them to do it. If they were holding me accountable for something, I wanted them to hold me accountable. Not all teachers want that. They want to be able to sit back, and sometimes it's hard because I've had to have tough conversations. You know, oh no, I didn't do that. Yep, that was my fault, and all this responsibility. And then frequent feedback. Like I said, I loved it when Dr. West and Dr. Browning came in my room. I loved it when my principal would come in and I wanted him to tell me, I wanted her to tell me, what can I do to improve? Don't tell me all the good stuff I did, great. I want that, yeah, but I wanted to really focus on what is it that I need to do to get better. That's where I felt like I really grew as a teacher. So before I came into Mix, I thought I was a good teacher. I really did. I remember walking in my first training and I sat down and I thought, well, why do I need to be here? I'm a good teacher. I'm good at what I do. I've got a lot of years experience. I know my content. What do I need this for? And I was going through the training and I was like, yeah, but I know what I'm doing. Yeah, but I got this. Oh, whew. I look back now and I go, oh no, I didn't. So before Mix, what I thought was a great teacher was somebody that could create relationships and build a safe and supportive classroom. I do still feel that's extremely important, but before I came to Mix, I thought that was the main number one thing. I don't do that anymore. They know their TEKS. They know what the TEKS say and what they mean. Now, I say that very loosely because I knew my TEKS before, not the way I know them now. I could tell you the TEKS. I could say, oh yeah, they're supposed to look at mixtures and solutions. Did I really know what that meant? No, I didn't. I knew the words. I didn't know what the words really meant. The lessons allow for students to be engaged. Before I came to Mix, I had student engagement, but I had about 60% student engagement. But I was a good teacher. I got my kids where they needed to be, and I really was. I truly felt like I was a good teacher. I felt like I was successful. I had kids that wanted to be in my classroom that were learning. But as I look back over my years, I look at some of my kids, and I didn't grow them the way I wish I had. you know, and I look back on that and I think, oh, I'm gonna change that now. Questions are important. I always knew questions were important, but I always struggled writing them. I always struggled with those right questions. I'd go into classrooms and see teachers, I'd hear Dr. Browning or Dr. West or Laura even ask these great questions, and I'd be, I gotta write them down so I remember. But now, as I've studied my TEKS more, I'm coming up with them, and I'm like, oh, I know how to do this now. It was pretty exciting. You follow your scope and sequence. That is super duper important. But Jen and I were talking earlier, and I was one of those teachers a couple of years ago that my district that I was in for the past 26 years provides scope and sequence, and they provide 5E lessons. So they provide math lessons, they provide science lessons, and they hand you the lesson. And so I was great at grabbing that lesson, I'd tweak it to make it mine, and I'd teach through those lessons. And I'd teach through those lessons, and on I would go. And I'd get to the end of the unit, and my kids would take the test, and I'd go, yeah, exactly, what happened? What? Wait, but I taught this lesson, why didn't they transfer it? Well, this year I really started looking at them, and I really started looking at the lesson and comparing it to the TEK and going, wait a minute, that doesn't match. Why am I teaching this? It doesn't match this. I don't care that the state district told me to teach this. It doesn't match this. So my supportive principal let me change those, and that was pretty exciting. Manipulative use is important, but doesn't work for all lessons. A picture can serve in the place of a manipulative. I remember one of the first trainings I came with, Dr. Browning, and I was like, well, we just draw a picture, and she's like, concrete, Donna? Okay, concrete. And then classroom management is important. I do still feel that classroom management is extremely important. But to me, that was a huge thing. To be a good teacher, your classroom had to be structured. It had to be, you know, kids had to be working. There was, now I know that sometimes it's not quite as clean as I thought it should be. So after I've been in mix 3 years, and this is really my 4th year of putting that stuff into place, you'll see a lot of these things are still the same. I do still feel extremely strongly that relationships are important. Like Denise said yesterday, kids aren't going to learn from you if they don't like you. And I still believe that truly today. Relationship building is probably one of the biggest keys, and it takes a long time. I had several kids over the past couple years that it took me half a year before that child trusted me enough to make a difference with that kid. Half a year of me continually being that broken record with that child. So to me, relationships are extremely important. Building that classroom in which students feel safe and supported. Letting kids know that failure is okay. I read a little thing that said failure, first attempt at learning. And so that was kind of a phrase that we took in my classroom this last year, that it's okay to fail because we're learning when we fail. We learn from our mistakes. It's not a failure. If I already know it, then I don't have any learning to do. So first attempt at learning. Good teachers know their content, not just the TEKS, but what the student needs to learn, as well as any misconceptions the student may have. Studying I remember planning lessons in my first couple years of mix, and Dr. West would go, well, what did the standards say? And I'd go, but this is the activity. What do the standards say? But no, this is what did the standards say, Donna? Here's the book. And she made me look it up. And I'd get mad, and I was the fussy teacher. You never knew it, those of you who were in here with me, but I was fussing in my head.
We knew it.
But I knew y'all knew. But what I learned was, it gave me so much more insight. Wow, when I really started reading that, and then I went, oh, dang it, okay, I get it now. And now I do go back to those frequently. Go back and read them. I go back and look, and I study them. Dr. West, when I came in yesterday, threw Next Gen in front of me yet again. Well, look at this again. And I was eating it up, you know. So study those. I know that a good teacher, you cannot teach something that you first don't conceptually understand yourself. If you can't do it with manipulatives, if you've not experienced it first, you will never get it across to a child. You will not. And I thought I could, but I know the shortcut. It's not about the shortcut. It's not about the shortcut at all. You've got to know it yourself. Play with those manipulatives, use those manipulatives. I don't know how many times I've worked with fellow teachers and I immediately go grab the manipulatives and we pull them out and we use them as we're learning that lesson. Multiplying and dividing fractions this year and decimals was a very difficult task for one of the teachers I worked with. And so we had to play, we had to use the pieces, we had to divide the fractions with the base 10 blocks, and we had to put them in front of us again and again and again. Until you have that experience, you can't give kids. And so doing that yourself, that is so important. This was one that was huge for me. They use specific, precise language before, during, and after instruction, no pronouns. When I walked in, my conversations were riddled with pronouns. This, that, it. Well, I took it and I did that to it. And ooh, it very much became, you know, a kind of a joke that we were telling how many pronouns Donnie used in the lesson, and it was quite a few. Then the last time Dr. Brennan came and observed me, and I was teaching the lesson, and I was doing my anchor chart, and we were talking, and the kids were catching me. And I put them in charge of it, believe me. You want to get good at something, put your kids in charge of it. I got to drink enough water, guys. I got to drink, 3 bottles of water in a day. My kids held me so accountable. Oh man, it was crazy. How many waters did you have in this component? Only had 1. You need to go get some more. So they became in charge of my pronouns, and they started talking to each other. What is it? Excuse me, I don't know what that means. They were saying that to each other because I made them say it to me. If I use the word it, guys, you have to ask me. You have to tell me. I owe you a minute of recess. Man, I did everything I could to get them to catch me. So the last time they came in to observe me, Dr. Browning, I immediately went running back. How'd I do? She said, you didn't use any. So I was so excited, and I fall back on it. I was teaching in the spring of this past year, and we were teaching a science lesson, and I want to say it was landforms, and I said something about it, and I went, well, time out. The delta, and I caught myself. So you do slip back into it. I find myself slipping back into it sometimes, and then I had to, I caught myself, and my kids kind of looked at me, and I said, we can't use pronouns, guys. That's right, Ms. Gamano, we can't use pronouns. So that is such a huge thing right there. And I challenge you to listen to Dr. Browning, to listen to Laura, to listen to any presenters up here, and to catch them, and ask them, well, what is it, Dr. Browning? Because it'll make you more aware of it. That's how I got better at it, was I would sit in trainings and I would call it out. Oh, so what is it? What is that? They always start with concrete, pictorial, then abstract. You've got to start with that. They've got to touch it. They've got to feel it. They have to experience it for themselves. If they're not touching those rocks, they don't get those rocks. A picture doesn't do it for them. So that's why manipulatives and math are so extremely important. Being able to move those pattern blocks around, move those Cuisinart rods around. I used to hate Cuisinart, I love them now. I'm going to my next screen. Questions. You need to write them out. You really do. As much as I hate to say that, when I write them out, questions are going to come up. They do come up. You guys know that. You're teaching a lesson and all of a sudden a question will come up and you go, yeah, couldn't have planned that any better. But you do have to write them out. I will tell you, though, that I was really stinky at writing questions until I got to know my content. Once I really knew my content deeply, man, those questions just bubbled to the surface. I was amazed at when I knew what I was teaching, when I knew the content, when I really understood it, when I really knew what that teacher was saying, when I really studied it deeply enough and really knew what it said, the questions just appeared. Man, I was like, why did I struggle so hard? These questions are right there. So they are very, very important. I read an article that was never say, I'm going to forget the name of it now. Something like never say what a child should say or what a child can say. So you shouldn't be doing all the talking the kids should. My favorite is,
That's Maria Montessori.
why? Something like that. There's a great article about it. I'll have to see if I can find it. Student engagement is a necessity, not just a few students, but all of your students. Our TEKS are student expectations. So it's the kids that should be doing. Yeah, there's a few demonstrations that have to happen, but for the most part, if the kids are doing, the kids are learning. Use of technology enhances the learning and allows students to take ownership of their learning through project-based assessments. I loved technology this year. I didn't in the past. I didn't think I would use it in science a whole lot, but this year I have really embraced it. There are some really great programs out there. This year I got the pleasure of using technology called Smart Amp. It's a online, interactive, basically it's just a blank piece of paper, and the kids create and do their learning on the piece of paper. They show their learning. So our technology people in Northeast gave me some training in it, and then I put it out there to my kids, and the kids collaborated and had to show their learning. So one of the projects they did was we were studying landforms, and they had to identify 3 different landforms and describe how those landforms were created, as well as compare 2 different landforms, and what processes led to the formation of that landform. And I just threw out a blank paper and said, okay, here's your blank workspace. You need to draw it. You need to pull in pictures of experiments that we did. I was blown away at the kids the stuff showed me. The things that the kids produced, and it was their stuff. They were so engaged. My principal walked in to observe me during one of my technology lessons, and the kids were working in groups, but it would be like you and you and you were in a group, but you couldn't talk to each other. You just had to talk on the computer. And so they had to collaborate with each other and discuss their learning, ask each other questions, talk to each other. The level of questioning in my classroom skyrocketed because they were asking each other questions. And that's the kind of questions you want. You want kids asking each other. And they were able to collaborate on these projects, and the learning just skyrocketed. I'm currently studying my STAR scores to see how that led into STAR. And I know one of the objectives that I did a project on, because I looked at it last night, my kids scored 83%. They were able to master it at 83% mastery. And it was one of those things. I was jumping up and down, man. I was so excited. Planning is key. Starting with the national standards to really know the content, and then looking at your TEKS. When you know the standards and the TEKS, then the lessons must match. So you really do have to start with your standards, not just the TEKS, because as Jen and I were looking at the TEKS today, they can be very vague. And so Dr. West kept pushing me to the standards and pushing me to those national standards. And man, I started studying those, and I was like, oh, I get it. Now I know what the kids are supposed to be doing. Now it makes sense. It also gave me a lot of misconceptions. What is it that the kids think will happen? And so I could use that in my teaching as well. So I've kind of intermixed my story in this. I love mix. I've been where you've been though, where I didn't think I needed it, where I got frustrated, where I thought, I don't really want to come back. Why do I need this? I'm learning high school geometry and I'm teaching 5th graders. We don't have to do that. But what I found in my classroom after I had learned it was, especially that physics, holy mackerel, Russell killed me. I was a better teacher because I knew it. And those of y'all who knew Russell, holy mackerel, he was awesome. So I just want to share my last little piece, and they're my scores. So in 2013 when I started, because this I'm super duper proud of. In 2013 when I started mix, I had 56% passing rate in my classroom. It was a mix of gen ed and sped, but that was before I really knew my content. I was a good teacher. I knew what I was doing. In 2014 that jumped up to 70%. It was gen ed only. I didn't have any sped in my room. And I was kind of proud of that number. I was like, whoo, I got 70%. The next year, which was 2 years ago, I had 75% passing. That was when I really started knowing my practice. That was when I had spent some time with Dr. West and Dr. Browning and been critiqued on my lessons. And believe me, when you've had a Dr. West critique, you'll understand what I'm saying. You kind of don't feel like such a great teacher after Dr. West gets a hold of you sometimes. But I tell you what, I learned more from that, and I would take 10 more of them because it helped me grow. And I, like I said, would take 10 more Dr. West critiquings that every time I sent this to her and I said, please look at this. Well, I made a few adjustments. I was hoping you would because I value them now. I didn't before, believe me. I walked out of here one day going, sheet, just I'm a good teacher, I know what I'm doing, and I'm just gonna teach well, no, I didn't know what I was doing. So, in 2015, my grade level was at 52% passing. It was kind of a tough year. We had some struggles, 57% passing in gen ed, so I was pretty proud of the fact that my scores in my own specific classroom were a little bit higher than that, and our SPED numbers were only 17%. Only one of 6 kids passed that year. Last year, we departmentalized. We did not departmentalize until the second 9 weeks of school. So we had 9 weeks where we all had our own kids, and then we decided to departmentalize. So then I had, these are my scores. These grade level scores are mine. So we had a 75% passing rate, 82% passing in general ed. And I have never, in all my years of being in a Title I school, had an 82% in science. So when I saw that, man, you should have seen me jumping yesterday. And I came back, look, Dr. Wells. I was so excited about that 82% passing in gen ed. And probably one that made me even more excited was my special ed number, which was 46%. 6 out of my 13 little SPED babies were able to be successful in that assessment because I didn't lower my standards and I didn't lower my teaching for my SPED kids. I gave them exactly what I gave my regular ed kids. We were all together. They were discussing, they were talking, they were conversing. My students knew their TEKS. My principal would come in and he would ask them what they were doing and they would say, well, you see, Mr. Nasty, we're studying the food web. And that's the flow of energy from the consumers to from the producers to the consumers. And those herbivores you see here on this food web, here's where they are. They were looking at blank food webs, my 5th graders. We're looking at high school food webs with only A, B, C, and D on them. And they could tell me, Ms. Campano, that letter A has to be a producer because it only has arrows pointing away from it. And we know producers only get their energy from the sun. That's how my 5th graders were talking this year. My 5th graders were talking this year because of mix and because of me knowing my standards. So I appreciate you guys. Stick with this program. I promise you, even though it's very frustrating and it's very consuming, and you'll walk out of here some days going, oh, frustrated, right, Tim? Many, many times Tim and I sit together. You know, Tim, you and Donna can't sit together. What do you mean we can't sit together? You know, but know that they do have your best interest at heart. And I thank you for letting me talk to you, and thank you for letting me share some time with y'all. Yeah.
By grade level departmentalized, you mean that you were this in 5th grade you were the science or math teacher?
I was the science
and there was
teacher.
Another, and the kids.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we rotated kids, so I saw 3 different classes of 5th graders every day. We had 3 classes. We had 3 teachers on our 5th grade, and so they just rotated through my classroom, which was kind of nice because then I only had one set of materials, you know, one experiment that I had to get ready, and I just had to do it 3 times. I did find my 2nd and 3rd class ran so much smoother than my 1st class. And so my 1st class, I redo it the next day. Okay, guys, here's the mistakes I made yesterday. We're gonna fix them today. So, but I loved it. I loved departmentalization. I really did. Any other questions? Oh, and that did not, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I'm not a huge proponent of tutoring. And so this really was not tutoring. This was core content. This was high quality core content teaching, because to me, 1 day a week of tutoring really doesn't make a huge difference. So, yes, Jenny.
So how do you scaffold it for the kids that don't get it when you're in the core, you're doing all those kinds of things, and you can see that they aren't getting it, but there's only 2 or 3 that aren't? How do you scaffold that as a teacher for?
The 2 or 3 that aren't, I'm going to pair them with the 2 or 3 that are, and they're going to start having conversations. If it's 2 or 3, I'm happy, because I'm over there too, and I'm questioning, and I'm talking, and I'm working. Now, wait, what was it you were thinking there? And I know who already. I mean, I already know. You walk in your classroom, and within 2 weeks, you know who you're going to have to stand by, and who you're going to have to sit there, and you're going to have to be next to them. You guys know that already. You know that as good teachers. You know those kids that are going to need that extra support. So you're there with them. Those are the kids that I did a lot of the kids would, so we'd read the TEAC every day. So every day before my class started, the kids would come in, they'd have a seat, we'd read the TEAC. We discuss, what is it we're doing today? We're observing. What does observing mean? It means we're seeing. They were telling each other. So tell your partner what we're doing today. Everybody has to talk in my classroom. My kids knew it's not an option not to talk. If somebody wasn't talking, they'd all look at, we have to talk in here. And they'd tell each other, we have to talk, we can't not talk. Go tell two friends. They moved. We moved all the time. You can tell I'm a mover. And so they moved all the time. So we had constant conversation. So the kids were constantly, and again, I put the TEACs, the exact TEAC up there. So today, guys, we're demonstrating and observing. What does that mean to demonstrate? It means we need to show you. So you're gonna have to show me what it looks like. So you're gonna have to show me how that delta is formed. What are you gonna do? Oh, we're gonna do this. What does it demonstrate the rotation of Earth, the revolution for the 24-hour? Ms. Campana, it does this. It's wait, what is this, guys? I don't understand. It's rotating on its axis. And so they're demonstrating. I make them do it. I make them do it with a partner. So there's a lot of kids talking. Research shows that, how do you learn a song? You sing it multiple times. So I knew my kids had to say stuff multiple times. So we read the TEAC every day, multiple times. Yes.
So when you said the entire TEAC, for instance, for science, I mean math, we have a ton in one. Do you specify exactly what part of that TEAC you're teaching? Or you put the whole thing, they read the entire thing, but today we're just gonna work on
I did both.
prisms
I did
and not
both.
pyramids?
I did both. I really did. I felt it was extremely important to put the whole TEAC up there because the vocabulary in the TEAC is the vocabulary I wanted to use in the classroom. Because it's, that is the vocabulary of the assessment. That's our kind of judge. But it's also the vocabulary in the standards. So it's up there. We talked about it, and then we came back to it at the end of the lesson. Okay, guys, what part of this TEAC, did we do it all today? Oh, no, we
Okay,
only hit
good.
this and this. So tomorrow we gotta come back to it, we're gonna hit these pieces of it.
So you wouldn't coach them at first saying, we're only gonna
Nope.
work on prisms, we're not only gonna work on pyramids?
No, we
Okay.
talk about
Or
the TEAC,
whatever
we
you're
pull out
talking
our important words, what are the words you think we might be using? And then as the lesson went on, we may put more words on our list. We kept the words listed on an anchor chart. I'm doing this because I used anchor charts in my classroom a lot. But it wasn't wallpaper. Dr. West, it became non-wallpaper in my classroom. I got very systematic on my anchor charts where they were not quite wallpaper. Dr. West used to laugh at my wallpaper classroom with my anchor charts. So. But yeah, it was really focused on,
Just knowing what the TEAC is, the verbs.
and I had to know it. I mean, I had to know, and if I didn't know it, it was pretty obvious never. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any advice on self-contained? Because my school is now moving back to self-contained, and I've never done 5th grade nor self-contained.
I loved it. I'm gonna be honest, I loved them both. The thing I love about self-contained is that you get the kids all day. And so you have more leeway on, so my math lesson is gonna take a little bit longer, so I'm gonna cut a little bit into this, but you have to be very aware of that. So if I cut a little bit into language arts today, I gotta pull a little bit out of math tomorrow. So you've got that flexibility. Is the harder part of that is there's more studying on your part. You're gonna have to study those other TEACs as well, because it's not just math and science that you've gotta know your TEACs in, you've gotta know reading, you've gotta know. Nice thing about reading is they're not quite as, you don't have quite as many. You read a passage and there's only certain things you do to that reading. So, you have the luxury of coming out of whatever, you're getting a lot of math and science here, so you'll have to do, but I love self-contained, and I'm happy to go back to it because I keep my babies all day. They're my babies, I'm in control of them, and we build that bond and we grow and learn together. So, Growth Mindset is another really great book that you might want to look into. It's a great book, sorry for my little ad. So. Okay, well, thank you guys for listening. Any other questions? I'll sit in the back for a little while.